From news and views, issues and opportunities, we'll have in-depth conversations with decision makers to find out what they know and what they think. I'm Rico Hizon, inviting you to join the exchange because your business is our business. Getting more people out of poverty, a smaller debt, an upper middle income country. President Bongbong Marcos has set these bold targets to define the state of the nation for years to come. How will the administration begin to achieve these goals in a looming global recession triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic and the war between Ukraine and Russia that's threatening food supply?
We are entering an age of exponential adoption of technology. It is the fourth industrial revolution. We cannot stand idly by.
The president also touching on a number of sectors that should embrace digitalization, such as governance, commerce, agriculture, and education. The vision of a digital economy in our C-suite vision. Tax reform, agriculture, infrastructure, these highlight President Marcos's economic recovery plan presented during his first State of the Nation address. Let's make sense of the numbers with former Socio-Economic Planning Secretary Ernesto Perna. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Are the economic goals of the President outlined in his first SONA too ambitious or are they realistic?
Well, yeah, on the whole, they are quite ambitious and grandiose, and well, I am for results, and I think I would have preferred that he would have spoken about what he's going to do in the first 100 days or in the first year of his administration, the doable things, and I would have wanted him to talk about the importance of human development. Human development, meaning investment in education, in health, in nutrition, and food. And because these are the things that most of our people, especially the lower income groups, are wanting. And they are the ones that need human development.
So, sir, Secretary Perna,
yes.
Why do you think he did not think of the near term? Why were most of his plans medium to long term? What we really need right now is the immediate effect for our kababayans in terms of lowering fuel prices and lowering consumer prices. Why weren't this discussed?
I don't know. As I've said, I would have preferred emphasizing and focusing on short-term, immediate and short-term agenda in terms of what needs to be done. Because there are so many things that needs to be righted, to be rectified, to be enhanced in the short term alone. And, that is better because, people are looking for results, not long-term vision,
Results, indeed, in the near term. Let's talk about infrastructure. He laid it out in his State of the Nation address, projects on build, continuing from the previous administration, roads to bridges to transportation. Can this be realized with the lack of funding due to our mountain of debt and lack of revenues?
Well, they can be realized maybe in the medium term, toward the end of, because he has 6 terms to do those things. But as I have said, the more important thing really is human development, human capital development. We have children. One third of our children are stunted. 1/3. That's pretty high. And if we have that kind of population coming into the labor force, you cannot expect much from them, and they will also have difficulty learning. Poverty learning will be emphasized, as the World Bank report shows. Learning poverty is really severe in the Philippines. 1/10 or 10 out of what rather 1 out of 10 children cannot read, and basic things to read, and that is really bad because that's called poverty learning poverty, and that is what we need investments in, not roads and bridges. Well, I would put second priority to the build physical infrastructure.
All right.
I would
Okay.
first put first priority on human development.
Okay, but human development may be addressed by President Marcos Jr. Over the next year. He may not have addressed it this time around in his SONA. Let's take a look at the growing debt of the country, Secretary Pernia. The Marcos administration wants to raise revenues by strengthening the country's tax administration practices, and one of them is imposing taxes on digital transactions. Is this sufficient when the government is short of cash?
Well, tax administration alone can improve revenue collection, and taxing digital transactions. You can get around 3 billion from that exercise, and then maybe he should give the example of paying his taxes, so that people will be encouraged to deliver on taxes, especially those who are unable to evade taxes.
Let's talk about food security, Secretary Pernia. To head off a looming agriculture and food crisis, your take on the President's strategic agricultural measures to stabilize food supply and improve food production?
Well, there is a lot of requirements to improve our food production, and that is not something that can be done overnight. In the meantime, we have to import, and maybe in 2 years, maybe in 2 years' time, we can probably improve our agricultural production, our agricultural productivity. But that needs a lot of focus, and that needs a lot of investment in good seeds and fertilizers, in mechanization of agriculture.
A lot of challenges that this administration faces today and going forward. Thank you so much for this economic exchange, former Socio-Economic Planning Secretary Ernesto Pernia. And now here's a rundown of this week's top business stories. The earthquake that rocked northern Luzon, in particular the province of Abra, cost at least 34 billion pesos in infrastructure damage in the Ilocos region alone. President Marcos vetoes a bill that expands the franchise area of Aboitiz-owned Davao Light and Power Company. The president raised concerns about a possible encroachment to an existing franchise area of another power distribution utility in Mindanao. And the U.S. Federal Reserve raised interest rates by another 3/4 of a point for a total of 1.5% in a month. And straight ahead on the exchange, where your business is our business. The administration sets its sights on digital transformation. We discuss connectivity and e-governance with Information and Communications Technology Secretary Ivan John Uy. We'll also find out what businesses think of policies towards the digital platform with BDO Capital President Ed Francisco. You're watching CNN Philippines. News you can use, news you can trust. Glad you're staying with us right here on The Exchange, where your business is our business. I'm Rico Hizon. Streamlining government processes through the digital platform is one of the items on President Marcos's agenda. But how easy will it be to adopt digital technology in our public offices? Let's now have an exchange with Information and Communications Technology Secretary Ivan John Uy. Secretary Ivan, thank you so much for joining us. Streamlining the government process through digital technology, of course, is one of the President's priorities. Many government officials who have spoken to are saying this is one way to weed out corruption. How soon will this be implemented in key offices like the Bureau of Customs and the BIR?
Well, those agencies will probably take priority in terms of digitization. There has to be some form of cohesion in terms of the adoption of technology. What has happened in the past is they have been implemented in a hodgepodge way. So depending on how much budget they have, then they do this portion or they do that portion. But as we know, it has to be implemented in a more data harmonized data sharing arrangement, so that we see the big picture and we are able to also implement lesser human intervention in many of the areas where discretion actually is present.
So is the DICT very much involved in the digital platforms of these two key revenue-generating agencies to harmonize the system so we can start weeding out corruption in these agencies?
These agencies have their own people in place, but DICT will provide them with the necessary tools, technology, and software if there is need, as well as the equipment that would be needed. Many agencies are technologically challenged, not just because of the lack of equipment, but because of the lack of skilled and trained personnel to handle that. So we need to strike balance that personnel who will no longer be, let's say, relevant because of digitalization, we need to retool them and reskill them so they know how to use these tools.
So, Secretary Ivan, the President's marching orders as well during his SONA speech is to deploy digital connectivity across our various islands. How will you and your department be able to achieve this?
Well, the key word there is across the islands. A lot of islands do not have connectivity because of the expense that's needed in order to lay out submarine cables. And these won't be economically feasible for many of our commercial providers because the usage is very, very limited. So the government has to come in, and just a couple of days back, we had a meeting with SpaceX, which is one of the technology providers that we could tap in order to provide satellite technology to bridge the gap and to provide immediate access to the remote areas. We call them the GIDA areas, geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas.
And of course, that company is owned by Elon Musk, and we spoke right after you were appointed DICT Secretary about Starlink, and you said that would be a game changer in the industry, providing remote communities in need of high-speed internet. So, Secretary Ivan, how soon will this be available to our kababayans in the rural areas?
It's not soon enough, but we want to get it down there. During our meeting, SpaceX representative who came here gave us an indication that they will be open for business by the last quarter of this year, and they could provide very extensive coverage by next year all over the country.
And how affordable will this satellite broadband services be for our kababayans in the countryside?
If you compare landline connectivity, like our current fiber optic connectivity, it is pricey if you compare them 1:1. But if we're talking about deploying them in the remote areas, the bandwidth and the costs compared to similar technologies in the past using satellite, this is a much cheaper and much faster and more efficient technology. So we don't aim to equip every household with one of these devices. It will have to be on a shared community deployment. So we can deploy it in barrio schoolhouses, in barangay centers where the community can share.
They recently amended the Public Services Act. Secretary Ivan allows 100% ownership of utilities. Has this started to attract investments in digital services and telecommunications? And how many more players you think during this administration can we expect to see competing against the likes of Globe, PLDT, DITO, and Converge?
That's a very key legislation that actually was the pivotal point where SpaceX decided to come in. When they saw that we passed that Public Service Act and liberalize investments in many of these sectors, one of the main decision points why SpaceX decided to come to the Philippines and make the Philippines their first operations in Southeast Asia. All the other countries have not provided them with this kind of incentive. So this will definitely open the doors. A lot of the tech companies are just looking at how we treat SpaceX, who would likely be the first foreign direct investor in the country, taking advantage of this Public Service Act liberalization.
And the bottom line is, Secretary Ivan, all our kababayans want is fast, reliable, and affordable internet. Thank you so much for this Digital Transformation Exchange, Information and Communications Technology Secretary Ivan John Uy. And when we come back on the exchange, where your business is our business, we get the private sector's take on President Marcos's plans for the economy and digital transformation. BDO Capital's Ed Francisco joins us straight ahead, right here on CNN Philippines. News you can trust. Welcome back right here on The Exchange, where your business is our business. I'm Rico Hizon. Improving connectivity across the country, taxing online transactions. How will the private sector be affected by plans outlined by the President during his State of the Nation address, and as well to engage in the digital space? Let's now have an exchange with BDO Capital President Ed Francisco. Ed, nice to have you. Thank you so much for joining us on the exchange. When we listened very intently to the President's SONA, he said that the economy would grow by as much as 8% annually over his 6-year term. The poverty rate would fall to single digits by 2028, and the revamped tax system would bring in greater revenues by next year. In your view, how realistic are these goals set by the Chief Executive?
Hi, Rico. Thank you for that. No, of course, these are stretch targets, but it's great that I appreciate the fact that they have set these goals, lofty but achievable. And I guess the key really is the execution, but he has a good team, and the private sector is there behind him. So we're behind him all the way, and we'll help achieve these goals.
From the get-go of the SONA speech, he already mentioned a lot of economic goals, numbers to be achieved in the medium term. He was talking basically, to the market, to the financial investors. How attractive are these goals and strategies for local and foreign investors?
No, if we can achieve them or even close to achieving them, these are excellent, because if you think about it, he put himself on the line by giving numbers. But he set his own KPI or KRA. So the fact that he set that for the government and the country, and then he's asked now the houses to work together to achieve them, that's a great plan. Now we just have to execute. But the business sector, as you've interviewed them, are all happy that we have these plans. So we'll work towards them.
And for the education of our viewers, you mentioned very important keywords, KPI and KRA. What are they?
Okay. Now, generally, diba, in the private sector or even the government, we have key performance indicators, KPI, or key result areas, so that you have a target and you have a plan and you measure against it. Diba? So the fact that he has that means that they're serious, because parang kumbaga babalikan natin siya na, why did you achieve that? But he gave these numbers. And that's why the foreign press, the foreign rating agencies should be impressed that we have that thing.
He also mentioned that tax reforms, Ed, no? Are they sufficient
Yes.
to address the country's mounting debt? Sinasabi nga ng ibang mga tao, we're running out of cash. We have to continue borrowing. What about these tax reforms, tax management issues that he raised during SONA? Will they be sufficient to be able to pay off our debts, interests?
Yeah. No, very good point, because the easy solution will have been suddenly increase taxes all over, di ba? But that will also stifle the businesses. So digital economy, I identified around 11.8 billion, and then the rest is really, improving BOC, being more efficient. So hopefully it doesn't mean it will increase taxes, but at least just tax it properly and implement what's there. And then the Filipinos in general, if they know that taxes are going to be used properly, we will be paying naman eh. So we will, as long as hindi ka, I guess it's fair taxation, then we will do that, and then we will be excited to contribute, so that as you will see where the money goes.
Food security as well was tackled during his SONA to head off a looming agriculture and food crisis. Your take on the President's strategic agricultural measures to stabilize food supply and improve food production, Ed?
Yeah. So of course, food security can be two ways. But one, of course, is having it physically here. It's also possible that food security will mean having that we have these contracts, or will ensure supply from all over. I just was with another client. Another client is working to ensure that we have at least meat, or other clients from all over to ensure their security. But his plans of helping the agrarian reform beneficiaries, giving donations, is sound, and then hopefully they can fix the part about at least making sure that the value chain is improved, especially with what happened in Baguio. Hopefully there'll be more cold storage areas. Private sector is doing that, and maybe the government can help. These things will really help so that the farmers will have more self-sufficiency. And even some of our clients who are into rice are looking into that. We're hopeful with that. Of course, a lot has to be done because we're still importing a lot, because nobody wants to be a farmer anywhere, right, Rico? But even for some of the large corporates, they're investing in agri already. So that's a good measure.
What about digital connectivity? You and I and all our kababayans want fast, reliable, and affordable internet made available to every Filipino. Is there an attraction to invest in digital services and in the telecommunication space?
Oh, yes. No, even a few years back, I was fortunate to have been very involved in the Converge IPO, because broadband is very important. And then now that we're seeing about, of course, there's the proliferation of additional broadband in the key areas is relatively easier because there's a big demand. The challenge really is these far-flung provinces. But the nice thing that the government is doing, we're already talking to SpaceX and other entities because it's more expensive. But if that will be used by schools and some of the LGUs to ensure that at least there's connectivity there, then that's one way of ensuring this broadband sa masa and the connectivity in the islands will happen. So at least there are plans, and we like what we're hearing.
Ed, what is the bottom line? Is there capital coming into the Philippines? Are we still an attractive investment destination compared to our ASEAN and Asian neighbors?
Very good question. Let me think about that. We are, first of all, we're very attractive even from the local perspective. Our stock market is very cheap already. Of course, there are just all these headwinds. That's why there's been a lot of capital flight. But if you look at it from a standalone perspective with our consumption story, good demographics, will always be a good destination. So what I guess the foreign investors are really watching this new government. If they start executing on these plans, these great KRAs as we discussed, then it will ensure that people come in. With the fact that the government passed these new laws already, allowing foreign investors in key industries is a great step, so that at least they'll invest in these huge capital intensive industries are great. But the nice thing also, the nice things we always have, Rico, the big conglomerates locally, they're already very strong. They have access to capital. So whether it is the SM Ayala, Aboitises, Gotianums, Consunis, they're all, Metro Pacific with MVP, they're all ready to, and RSA, they're all ready to invest. Even if wala may hesitate yung foreign, the local growth will be provided and private sector support will be there from the local conglomerates. And therefore, at least even if there's some hesitance from the foreign investors, we will continue to grow. And that's why I'm still very optimistic with what will happen in the country.
Thank you so much for this economic and banking exchange, Ed Francisco, President of BDO Capital. And this is the exchange to make sense of the facts and the figures and the ups and downs of the business cycle, because your business is our business. I'm Rico Hizon, and before we go, we leave you with a look at how an automotive company is empowering and partnering with Filipino business owners with the aim of achieving mobility for all.
We at Toyota Motor Philippines are quite excited to announce and release this model because we know that a lot of people have been requesting and wishing for Toyota to launch a model in the light commercial vehicle segment. We're here right now at the Farmers Plaza in Araneta City, and we are launching the all-new Toyota Light Ace. We think this is a perfect venue for our launch today because we know that this is one of the centers of commerce and trade in the country. What sets it apart this time is that we are offering the Toyota Light Ace under special financing schemes powered by Toyota Financial Services. The rates are very MSME friendly, so actually our customers can acquire the Toyota Light Ace vehicles under weekly payment program. So Toyota Light Ace is now available in all our 72 dealerships across the country. So that's nationwide. That's very important because the goal of the Toyota Light Ace is to empower business owners and entrepreneurs, especially in far-flung areas where transportation is a challenge. Two variants are now available. So we have the pickup, which retails at 570,000 pesos, and we have the panel van, which costs 655,000 pesos. Both are very flexible and both can be used in different industries. They can expect no less than the signature quality, durability, and reliability of Toyota vehicles. They can expect it to work hard for the businesses. Maintenance is also easy, so that's going to be a big help for our entrepreneurs and our business owners. The all-new Toyota Light Ace is a very important model for Toyota Motor Philippines because aside from this being our entrant in the light commercial vehicle segment, this also brings us closer to our mission of bringing mobility for all. So now that the all-new Toyota Light Ace is here, we cannot wait for it to be a true kasosyo sa asenso of our business owners and entrepreneurs